Welcome to the ITSAC Customer Portal Demo, and thank you for participating in the webinar. As Tony said, I'm Chandra Thompson. I'm a contract specialist in the procurement department and the new ITSAC Portal Administrator. I know a lot of you have been speaking with Ann for many years, and she is still with us, and she will be my backup when I'm not available. The contract manager for the ITSAC context will be Tracy Lamone. So if you have any questions regarding the ITSAC portal, please email them to dir staff augmentation at dir.texas.gov. If you have any questions regarding the ITSAC contracts, please email Tracy Lamone at tracy.lamone@dir.texas.gov. And today we have Beth Perry with our IT department. She is going to do the demo for the ITSAC portal. And just a reminder, if you need an account to be able to log in and do the ITSAC portal, please request that through our DIR website. And understand that if there are several members in your agency that do the solicitations, only you will be able to see your solicitations with your password and login. So you only see what you've done. You won't be able to see what your coworker has put in there, just only the items that you've posted or canceled or edited. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth.
Hello, thank you, Chandra, and welcome to the webinar. So I'm going to start with the easiest way to log in, which would be to click here on Sign into My DIR, and there's a tab right here for DIR ITSAC Customer Portal. So when you click on that, you'll be taken to a login screen. And right now, because ITSAC is down for what we're going through right now, the login screen isn't here. If you do not have a login, right underneath where those two boxes would be is a link that says Request Account here. And it's an easy one to fill out. Also, for anybody new requesting their logins, you'll get an email, a welcome email, and it'll have the documentation attached to it and a link so that you can set up your login. So what I'm going to do is go straight into where I'm logged in as a state agency, and I am working for the Railroad Commission in this state agency. This is what the whole page looks like. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because you'll probably default to something smaller like this. But on the webinar, it's easier for close. All this detail right here won't be here starting October 5th. If you're using the system for the first time, your open solicitation list right here will be empty. Actually, it's going to be empty for everybody because any of the previous fiscal year's solicitations, they will be up here in the closed solicitation tab. I'll take you there right now. So these are ones that have been closed, either closed because of no response, they've been awarded, or they were canceled by you. So I'm going to go back to the home page here. So we can see that we've done some testing, obviously, with this user. And they've got a couple of drafts, and they're reviewing resumes for these two and reviewing statements of work, for a statement of work for this one, which is a new type of solicitations that was added with these new contracts. So this is your ID. So this is the one that you put in when you create it. You can give it a working title. So again, that's a free form. You can sort this way by your status. You can sort by the deadline date, which is the date that you set for when you need your resumes to be back. You can sort by whether it's a statement of work or a resume request, and your posted date. So that's just kind of demoing how you can use the list view right here. So when you're ready to submit a new resume, or a new request for resumes, excuse me, click on this button right here, Submit Request for Resumes. And you'll enter your solicitation number here. So I'm going to say 2020 RRC webinar.
And any updates that you do through the portal, whether you're posting a new solicitation, extending a deadline, or closing a solicitation, once you have submitted or did that update, you will receive an email.
Okay. So all the fields with the red asterisks are required. So this, again, this is your solicitation reference number. So something that you'll remember, or not remember, but something that's meaningful to you or to your agency or your local government, a working title, and then here you could put an estimated start date. So you can't put yesterday or last month. You have to put, and I believe it's even 5 days out from today. So I'm going to put November 22nd. You can enter an estimated end date if you'd like, or leave it blank. In this field, you can say how many positions you have to fill. So I'm calling this help desk tech, so I'm going to say I need 2 help desk techs. And on this one here, number of estimated hours per worker. This is for the total of the length of time you think that you're going to have them per worker. So I'm going to say 2,500 on this one, because I think it's going to be a year, maybe more. And then you hit next. Here you'll be able to enter a description of the job duties, and we have this where you can cut and paste. If you have it in a Word document, you can say green typing and yellow mouse keystrokes. Okay. And then you can make that a bulleted list if you want. You can make it bold, you can make it larger. So you've got some editing here if you need to call things out. This is the field that where you need to enter how many resumes per vendor you're allowing. We default it to 1, so everybody has to submit at least 1, and you can go as high as 5. Keeping in mind that there's over 100 INSAT contracts, and if everybody submits 5 resumes, which would be unusual, but that would still be 500 resumes to review. And here you just put the address of where the work will be done. We default start and end hours at 8 to 5, but you have the ability to change that as well. And then you have to select whether they're full-time or part-time. We default it to full-time. Here is an extra block where you can put any special requirements. So right now you got to be able to telework, and we need fingerprinting, something like that. Okay, sweetie. My cat. I'm sorry. And any additional terms and conditions, just make note that you can't weaken the terms and conditions. Your additional terms and conditions can't weaken the DIR contract terms and conditions. You can leave these 2 blank or put what you need to there. Really, this is you're imparting more information to the vendor. Click next. And now we're getting into the part that's new for us with the advent of these new contracts. We're going to start with category. And we have let me see if I can make that bigger. We now have a hover on all of these selections where you can get a little bit more information about it. And I know it's small in the webinar. On your screen, it'll be easier. But if you just hover here, this one right now is just giving a list of what job titles are contained in these categories. So I'm going to pick the help desk one. And then when I do that, now I have this. And down here, we have a description of each of these. So again, in the hover, and I'm sure it's hard to see, but on your own screen, it'll be better. You also have the ability to select an undefined title. And this would be if you know it's something in technical services, but you're not sure what the job title is, you can select that, and that'll be finalized during your negotiations with your vendor. So I'm going to pick help desk. Last, I have levels. So I have a help desk 1, 2, or 3. And again, I have hovering, and the hovering will tell you what the level entails and the NTE for that particular level. And on this one, this is a help desk 1 to 3 years of experience, and the NTE is 3708. So as you're entering, you have the ability to look at what you need and maybe what your budget is. If your budget is, I can't fit 52, then I'm going to go down to a 1. Also, we're having interns be available through here. So you can pick an intern 1, 2, or 3. They have also descriptions, and they have NTE rates as well. And lastly would be a specialist, and the specialist would be maybe somebody. Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Specialist is a level when you're looking for a specific knowledge of systems. So you would include the skill and job scope that you're looking for that's outside the title description.
Right, and that one doesn't have a not to exceed rate, and the final negotiated between the customer and the vendor. So I think I'm going to just pick a 2 here. I'm going to back up a little bit. And then it'll take me to my screen where I can enter my required. So I picked a 2, that's between 4 and 7 years of required experience. So I'm going to say 7 years helping with IT customers. And I'm going to do a new row, and I want 6 years of Windows 10 support. And I want 7 years of computers and boxes. If I have anything preferred, that's not necessarily required, but what I would like to see is I would like to see that you have a college degree. College degree or in progress, maybe. You can remove the rows or add rows here. And then your next step would be to save this as a draft. And then it just gives you some verbiage that you can go back and review it. So this is, again, this is a change from the previous one. Those of you who've been using it in the past know that if you had to edit this, you would have to delete it and start over. So this is the one that I just did. So we give you the ability to download the solicitation. So here's the solicitation. I'm looking for this. This is my NTE, a help desk 2. It's got all my information that I requested down here. My skills, my length of service. We have a to be determined date. My other special requirements are in here. And then we have the note that will display here if you're a state agency. So this is the draft. If you need to edit it, you can click this button that's up here in the right. At this point, you can post it, you can withdraw it, you can edit it, or you can clone it. And cloning is also, so editing and cloning are 2 new functions. I'll show you the clone in a second. So if I wanted to edit this, it's going to take you back through the wizard, and you have to go through each step on the wizard. So let's say now I know that this is going to go through, and by the way, you can quick key this in 11, 30, 20, 22. So that's how long the estimated, that's how long I'm going to need them. I don't need to change anything here. I don't want to change anything here. I'm happy with this. I did want to show that we do have this link here. So you'll need to make sure you have pop-ups enabled because these are all pop-ups, but you can click here if you want to see the full table of all of the category, the title, and the levels with the NTEs. So that'll open in a new window. And I guess we need to fix that. Somebody will make a note for me, right? Here, now we can edit or add new skills if you need to. Let's say I didn't mean to delete the college degree one. I need you to have a college degree or be working on it. Go ahead and save the draft again and finish. And now I can go down. I'm gonna refresh and I should see my new skill down there. Yeah, so there's my new skill right there. That'll happen faster for you. I was expecting it to be less than instant. And so from here, the other thing that you can do, and this is a benefit to the users that use this a lot, is they can clone this solicitation. So let's say that, okay, now I have my help desk text, but now I need technical writers or something. So you clone it. What'll happen when you clone, you will have to change this name right here. Let's say I still need help desk text. The first thing it's going to say is we've already used this number, so you can't use it again. So you'll have to change it to something else. And our start date and end date is still good. So now I have a new what I've done is I've created a new solicitation number, but I've retained all the information from the previous one. On this one, I'm only going to let them submit one resume per vendor. Next, and this time I want a support technician and a support technician level 1. Now it kept me here with these skills, but I won't be able to go on with them because a level 1 is less than 3. So I'm going to remove these two and I'm going to change this to 3 years. That's really all I want for this guy. Save it, finish. Now I've got, now I have 2 of them. One for help desk, both for help desk techs, but one is for a support technician 1 and one is for help desk technician 2. So as I'm saying, anybody who's used this in the past few months knows that that cloning button is going to come in handy. So the next thing that go ahead.
Oh, and as Beth mentioned, some of the new features will be once the solicitation has been posted, you can only edit the deadline date. So once it's been posted, the only thing you'll be able to edit is the deadline date. So if you look and see that you're not getting as many responses as you would have hoped for, you can go in while it's posted and change the due date. If you need to make changes to other information that's posted in a request, like you need to change the title or add a requirement, you will have to cancel the solicitation, and you can use the cancel solicitation, but you can clone it to go ahead and repost it again.
Right.
So you won't be starting from scratch. You can use the clone option, and that's a nice new feature we have in there.
Yes, thank you. So now I'm going to post. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to post this one. So I'm going to use my post button, click post, and it's going to pop up a window that's first going, because I work for a state agency, it's going to pop this window up first, which is saying that you agree that you will solicit XYZ in this number because your dollar amount could hit here. So this is just reminding you of the proposals. I agree. And now you set a deadline date. So we give them at least 3 days to put together their list. So let's say I'm going to put October 6th here. And now what you're seeing is, this is a new feature also. So these are the old contracts that expired yesterday. with the exception of some of our test contracts right here. But what we're showing you here is you have the ability to send it to everybody. Every vendor will have the same categories. If I hit click save right here, every one of these test vendors will get an email saying that Railroad Commission is looking for help desk techs. You can also uncheck everybody if you know that you've worked with previous vendors in the past or you had a good experience. But you'll also notice that WorkQuest remains checked because that one, again, this is the old data, but so it'll have a different contract number, but that one remains checked for state agencies. So now what I've done is narrowed who I'm sending it to. So you have the option of sending it to everybody or selecting vendors that you want to send it to directly. But if you're a state agency, this one will have to be included.
It will be defaulted to be included. So you don't have to check it. It will always be defaulted to
It'll always be there.
all state agency postings.
So now it's going through the emails. It's letting me know that the eligible vendors have been notified. And by eligible, we mean that their contract is still active. And now you notice it lands you on this detail page right here. This is where you can extend the deadline. And if you extend the deadline, it will email vendors. You can cancel the solicitation. If you cancel it, we'll ask for a reason. There's a drop down with 2 reasons. Usually it's going another direction or no funding, or there's an other and you have to enter an other. Or you could clone this solicitation from here if you'd like. And if I go back to the solicitation right here, I'm gonna go down to the bottom, then here you'll see the list of the vendors and the contracts that you sent the to. So if I had left that select all checked, there would be all 120 vendors and their contract numbers entered here. So for your procurement file, you can show who this was submitted to. We'll come back here. So here now I can go back, I can go home and I can see that this particular one has been posted. I gave it a deadline date of 10/6. If you need to see, let's pretend that today's October 5th and you want to see if anybody's responding, you won't be able to see the candidate information, but it will, if let's say 10 candidates were posted right here, this would change and it would say, there's been 10 candidates posted. It wouldn't tell you which vendors posted what. That doesn't happen until after the deadline date and 5 p.m. on the deadline. But you'll be able to use this to tell you whether you need to consider, like maybe it's the morning of the 6th and it's still 0 candidates. So you may need to consider whether you need to cancel it and submit something different, find out what the issue is that you're not getting any responses. So that is walking through submitting a resume, a request for resumes. The other new functionality we have is submitting a statement of work. This one is and for this one, this is more of a project. Let's say you have a project. Let's say you're setting up a call center. And what do you need to set up a call center? And you just know you're going to need XYZ. Let's say that's going to start on November 2nd. And the only thing you have to do is fill out a description. And this is if you need, so I want a project manager. I need a network engineer. I need a security engineer. So what this gives you the ability to do is request more than one of all of those titles and levels that we had seen earlier. So you can put anything again you need to here.
And
Click
this statement of work
next.
is to cover your scope of project. So you have a project coming up and you know you need an A team, but you're not sure who needs to be included to do that project. This is where you would send it to the vendor in a statement of work of what you're trying to do. And that vendor will send back what you need. You need 2 developers, you need 1 IT person, you need 2 writers, and they will tell you what you need and send resumes over to you on those folks and the cost of what it would be. And that would be for the scope of project for SFW.
Right. So you just enter a brief description and then you can upload a file. And we go here. The nice feature of this is if, let's say, you have 3 files that you want to include, you can do a Control-Shift and add all 3 files. And these files would just be more information that you're giving, plus it's also going to be the statement of work, the official statement of work. And then you hit next and finish. So now I've created a new statement of work. Again, I can edit this, but there's not much to edit because the only fields I have is the start and end date and a description, a scope. Or I could remove files if I needed to. I can delete files and add new ones. I'm going to post. And here, you have to certify at this point that you've already gone through the statement of work process with DIR.
And all state agencies, not including higher ed, must have SOWs reviewed by DIR per the Texas Government Code.
So we give you a place to agree to that, and then we bring it back here and say, you know, if we think this is going to be between 1 and 5 million, then you need to pick at least 6 contracts. Agree to that. Just give yourself a deadline date, probably 2 weeks for that. And again, you get the same list here. You can send it to everybody, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And if you're not sending your solicitations to every vendor, state agencies must send to a number of vendors required in the threshold based on the total dollar amount in your purchase order.
So then you can see now on the details for this one, you can see all of the contracts that you selected to send it to, and here's your documents. And what'll happen is those vendors will be notified and they'll start submitting responses. And you'll be able to see here, same as the solicitation, or I'm sorry, the candidates, it'll say whether you have any responses to your SOW solicitation or not. So you'll know if you need to extend it or cancel it. I'm going to go back home. So that's kind of walking through creating a solicitation and a resume and a statement of work. Again, this view close tabs, this is where immediately after, like if it closes and there's no responses, so that means that the deadline came and went and nobody responded and you didn't cancel it, we automatically close it, no responses, and move it to this screen.
And if you do have a statement of work for ITSEC, you need to send that to an email to sow@dir.texas.gov.
You'll also see your awarded ones here. So the next thing I'm going to do is go through awarding. So I'm going to check this one. So in order to award, you have to be on this status here. So as soon as the deadline date comes and goes, your requests are all set to customer reviewing. And that's when you'll be able to go into the system, click on the candidates. You'll be able to export the candidate list, which is the spreadsheet that Ann used to put together, but we have it populated now. Imagine if you had 10 candidates here, you could select how many resumes, or you could select them all. But what I'm showing now is awarding a resume. So let's say we're going to hire Billy the Kid. You click award solicitation, and it gives you a reminder that once you do this, this is going to close out the solicitation, and it's going to notify all the vendors that had been submitted, that this was originally submitted to.
So if you're going to award to more than one vendor, you need to do it all before you hit award.
Right.
So
Well, I was going to say, it gives you the ability to save, like if you award the first one, but it'll still be in reviewing status until, because it asks, I believe, it asks you, is this your final? But you just click here, it gives you a candidate start date. So I'm going to have the candidate start here. We need an approximate date. I'm going to have them for a year. And the final negotiated rate, which will not be able to exceed the not to exceed, but it can be lower. So let's say we picked 35. I'm going to confirm
you can
that.
always negotiate your rates further down. With budgets going down, you can always try to negotiate that rate down with the vendor. So if they put 90, you can always try to negotiate down with the vendor to go 80.
And this is the warning screen that it's been awarded and everybody's been notified, and it can no longer be accessed. So now you'll see that that particular award is no longer on this screen. It'll be up here on this one, which is this one right here. And now that I'm in an awarded status, this is where you can clone, because you can go back and clone one of the customers that are our incumbent customers that are using this. You won't be able to clone a solicitation from the previous RFO because there's too many changes to the to that particular, to the levels and the titles and everything. So you would have to at least start one new one with the new RFO changes, and then start cloning from there. And go back here. We'll look and see if this one has more than one candidate. No, it just has one. Okay. So then I can award a statement of work, and awarding the statement of work is the same process. Award solicitation. Here I have 2. And then it gets you back to this screen. So this is what, this behavior is the same as the candidates, what Chandra was talking about. If there was 10 candidates here and you were hiring 3 and they were 1 from each vendor, you could just save it before you, or you could go there and do the next one, which sounded kind of, there we go. So I'm going to use half of one and half of the other. Solicitation's been awarded. Again, it's going to come off and it's going to be over here in my awarded one, which is this one right here. We don't offer the option to be able to clone one of these because there's only 3 or 4 fields. So it's an easy one to start over if you need to start a new one. And you can see all the vendors that were solicited. Come over here to the responses, and I should see that they've been awarded. So the status is awarded. And I'm gonna go back home here. For the new folks, this will be your home is always this page right here. And this is where you'll log out when you're done at the end of the day. And I think that's all I have, unless anybody on DIR side thinks I missed something.
I believe you covered everything, Beth. Chandra, do you have anything else that you might want to chime in on?
I just want to let you know that when the data retention for the statement of works will be according to your following statute for your agency. And just to go over some of the new functionalities of the ITSAC portal, customers are able to edit solicitation and draft post, and draft prior to post, excuse me. Customers can change the deadline dates to a future date and post status. Customers are able to clone any solicitation in their account, draft, posted, cancel, or awarded. If a change needs to be made to a solicitation after posting it, it must be canceled. But the good thing is you'll be able to cancel the solicitation, edit, make the changes, and repost. And that's all I have. Right now, DIR is working on awarding contracts, and that more and more vendors will be added throughout the month of October. And if you're ready, Tony, I think we can go into Q&A, unless anyone else had anything else to add.
I think we're ready to get into Q&A as well. I just wanted to remind our audience that the portal is down for maintenance and that it will be up the morning of October 5th, this coming Monday. So be on the lookout for that. We had a couple of questions in the chat that I wanted to ask. A few of these are technical. So this one is for Beth. Is there a limit to the number of accounts requested by an agency?
No.
So you can have as many accounts as you want, but again, we wanted to iterate that a user under a certain agency cannot see the solicitation submitted by different users. Okay.
Right. At this time, we don't have a super user model where somebody can, so if Railroad Commission has 3 people submitting and somebody's out, if you need to have the ownership of that record changed, you can submit a request through the ITSAC email address, and we can do it on the back end for you. But yeah, so you could have multiple submitters.
A follow-up question to that. Can a solicitation be transferred from one employee to another?
Yes, it's but we'd have to do it administratively on the back end.
Okay, great. So be sure to reach out to us at DIR staff augmentation at dir.texas.gov, and we will handle that on the back end. We have another question. How do I award to multiple vendors? I'm assuming you're asking about multiple vendors on either a request for resumes or a statement of work. And both of them work exactly the same way. When you're ready to award, and again, when you're ready to award, you're meaning that you're closing the entire solicitation, you can select each one in that hired column or that selected column, and it will ask you for those details. So you can choose one or you can choose many. And that's how you can award to multiple.
I should say at the point that you're clicking on the award, that means you're ready to close it out. Right. So you might already have hired one person who started working 3 months ago and you're just now hiring the last one. Don't award that first one until you're ready to do that last one. And then you just click on it, and there may be 6 vendors there. You pick 6 people from 6 different vendors. You just have to have it all finished. So.
Okay. Next question. Are the DIR terms and conditions different for the request for resumes and statement of work? No, the terms and conditions are applicable to both. It's everything that's under the ITSAC contract. How long is the contract for? I'm assuming you're referencing the statement of work, that is entirely up to you as long as it's within the dates of the contract for that vendor that you're selecting, if that makes sense. There are survivability clauses for how long you can extend beyond that, beyond their expiration, but statement of work should be up to the agency for the duration. Will DIR have a webinar to review the DIR T's and C's for this new contract? Not really sure if I understand the question. I'm assuming you're, so Susan, if you can resubmit, are you asking, are we going to have a webinar that's dedicated solely to the terms and conditions? If so, can you ask that in the Q&A? Does DIR have a statement of work template for ITSAC contractors? Not at this time. We were thinking about creating a template, but we wanted it to be a little bit more open. And we didn't want to make it as confined. On our DIR website, we do have a reference page for drafting a statement of work. So if you go to that link that I had sent out, you can see a link there to our statement of work page. And there's some tips and tricks on how to draft those templates or how to draft a statement of work using either the waterfall method or an agile method. And again, feel free to reach out to us, SOW@dir.texas.gov. We have staff there that will be reviewing and assisting on statement of works. And yes, so Susan, your question, I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not 100% sure if there's going to be a separate webinar for just terms and conditions. If an agency is interested in the SOW approach, DIR can assist through IPL. Thank you, Herschel. I did want to add another mention. When submitting a request for resumes, there's a field there that's work location. Typically, your work location can be, an actual physical address, but with COVID-19 and a lot of agencies and folks being able to work from home, if you can add that description there, like just work from home or work remote, that will give the vendors an indication of whether or not this person is allowed to work remotely. Or unless otherwise stated, they'll have to be physically in the office. But again, that stuff can also be talked about during the negotiations, but I think that would be a nice courtesy to add that level of detail. And with that, I believe we've answered all the questions. I had a question earlier about adding hub statuses to our vendor list. We will definitely be taking that back as a feature request. I think that's a great idea. So we will be looking at that. And again, on that DIR ITSAC webpage, it will have a list of active contracts there as it gets refreshed, as it gets added. So we will be trying to add the hub status there as well.
And another function, a new function of the ITSAC portal I forgot to mention is duplicates and unqualified candidates will not be available to review and hire. There are no more disqualifications of resumes because they were sent in by 2 different vendors. You will be able to review and hire those candidates that are duplicates or unqualified.
If they download the candidate list, that will include the hub status of the vendor, the prime vendor, and if the candidate is subcontracted through if they are subcontracted, it will have a hub status for them. I don't have it displaying here, but it is in the candidate list.
Okay, great. And I think we have another question in the chat. Can you go into the detail on the process and why the SOW must be submitted to DIR at the email address Chandra mentioned? Again, we're observing Texas Government Code, I believe it's 2157 for state agencies, not including higher ed. For SOWs, that's within a certain dollar amount. And we can post that reference in a little bit. But SOWs need to be reviewed by DIR staff prior to posting to vendors. If you are a state agency, not including higher ed. And again, based on the threshold of the SOW at the final stage before it's being awarded, it will also have to be reviewed by DIR staff and approved. And we are not, and again, I wanted to emphasize that the SOW review process under ITSAC is going to be done through email, through that SOW@dir.texas.gov. We are not using the SOW portal at the time. We have one last question that was posted in the Q&A. Are there special considerations for interns? Will all vendors have interns? Don't recall the answer to that. I believe if the vendor has interns that are available, they can respond. I don't believe all vendors are required to have vendors available, but it depends on I think it depends on the vendor. And with that, I believe that's all the questions. I'm not seeing anything new. Right, so thank you, Herschel. Likely not all vendors will be able to offer interns. So I think it would be a great idea to, if you're looking for internships, to submit it to all vendors and all vendors with the active contract to see if which ones can offer interns at the category and title and level that you're specifying.
Tony, I see a question about the contract term. And the contract term is an initial term of 2 years with 2 additional 1-year options, so 4 years total.
Great, thank you, Tracy. Are contractor rates changing? Yes. Please, again, refer to the link that I have out there, or refer to the RFO 445. It will have a very detailed list of all not to exceed rates, depending on the category and title. I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, but one of the big changes between the old ITSAC contract and today's new one is the removal of the technology type. But yeah, be sure to take a look at those documents and make note of those types of changes, especially for the positions that you're interested in. As Herschel is mentioning, the not to exceed rates, that is the ceiling of the rate for that position. It can always go lower. So always keep that in mind as a customer, that when you're negotiating with vendors, that we can always negotiate for a lower rate. And Herschel makes a good point. We may be able to determine which vendors are positioned to offer interns. If that's an indicator that would be helpful for our customers, we will look into that. Are there limits on the special hourly rates for each classification? You're referring to our specialist rate. I'm not really sure how to answer that question. There's not necessarily a limit if you're talking about the rate. The rate is what you determine the specialist rate should be. And of course, the limit is your budget. It depends on what your budget allows. But when we're talking about specialist levels, it's a requirement of, for instance, a requirement of specialized knowledge that would require a specialist. So that may justify a different rate than the one that is bound by the contract. Okay, I believe that's all the questions. If not, going once, going twice. Otherwise, are there any DIR staff that have questions?
No, if you have any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask today, you can always email me at dir.staffaugmentation@dir.texas.gov, and I'll get your question answered. And if you have any questions regarding the ISAC contracts, that would be Tracy Lamone, tracy.lamone@dir.texas.gov.
Great. Thank you. I want to thank both Beth and Chandra for presenting today, and I want to thank our audience for joining. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.